Hello and welcome to the Fairhaven Church Parent Talks podcast, where we desire to equip and empower you as parents to lead well in your home. Today, I am joined by two people on our Centerville student team. And so Caleb has been here a few times.
Yep.
Good to have you back.
Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome.
Always an honor.
Yeah. So glad that's how you feel.
Just one day I feel like I'm just going to stop getting invited and I'll accept it.
No, you won't. You'll be disappointed. I know it. And Joel is joining us for the first time.
I am indeed.
Yep. So Joel is new to the team. So introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Joel Kaler. I am from Springfield. I attended Word of Life Bible Institute and then finished my degree with Davis College. And so I am married to a lovely woman named Josie. And so we are just so excited to be a part of the Fairhaven family.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And you have family who has been attending Fairhaven for a little while. So that's great.
Yeah, my wife's family has all been attending the Centerville campus.
Yep, so it gives you good connection.
Yeah.
Okay, so question of the day. Vacation, would you rather be on the beach or in the mountains? Either one of you, go.
This one's easy for me.
What is it?
Mountains.
Mountains
all the way.
Okay.
But my wife is a big beach person.
Okay.
So I have to go to the beach when we go on vacation.
That's true. That's true. You have to do what she says.
Yeah.
I don't like the beach, but I like the warmth.
Oh my goodness. You're always complicated.
Yeah.
You know, it's a complicated question.
Okay, so no beach.
I don't like sand.
You don't like sand.
I don't like water, but I like warmth.
Where?
Okay.
Water really freaks me out.
Okay.
That's like a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So where would you go that's warm? Like, what does that
Like,
mean?
We like to go to like Disney World.
Oh,
but I
yeah,
also
that's
like
right.
grew up in
Okay.
California where
That's
I have the beach and the mountains.
Yeah.
So I can't just like pick
Yeah.
one.
I have to be honest.
Slayers.
It is really hard to choose one.
Yeah.
You're
'Cause
spoiled. That's what I'm hearing, Caleb.
It also like depends on like what I'm needing at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like it also depends on who you're going with.
Oh, that makes a big difference.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm just going with my husband, we can go to the beach because we can like just chill.
Yeah.
If I'm taking my son, no, that's not an option.
Yeah.
He is bored the entire time.
Yeah.
Makes
My
sense.
daughters, they're teenage girls, so they like the beach. So
Yeah.
they just want to tan.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow. Nice. Glad to know
Yeah.
a little bit more about you guys.
Yeah.
Caleb still remains picky. So far, every question, I have felt like, wow, you're really picky.
You know, a guy know what a guy likes.
Yeah. There you go. Amazing. Okay.
Do you even know what you like?
I think so for the most part. Okay.
So we're going to jump into today's lesson, what it is that the kids and students are learning. And in the passage, so what we're talking about is God's faithful covenant being carried from Abraham to Isaac, then to Jacob, and now to Joseph. So the problem really is that Jacob loves Joseph more than his brothers because he was born to him at his old age. And so Jacob's favoritism really causes a lot of trouble and problems because he favors Joseph, and it's very obvious, and this causes a lot of deep anger towards Joseph and his family. But we also read and see that God redeems all that is broken and uses our pain for his glory. So we're in Genesis 37 through 50, and we're going to kind of talk through that. So Caleb, you want to introduce us to this story?
Yeah. There's a lot that happens within these 13-ish chapters.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
like we could definitely spend more than just 1 week on this. So Jacob, like you said, favors Joseph. He gives him the coat. And then the brothers get all upset and jealous. So they plan to kill him and then end up selling him for silver.
Yeah.
He's with Potiphar, and then Potiphar's wife tries to tempt him, and then he says no. He gets thrown in prison. He's interpreting dreams. Then he's with Pharaoh and is like the right-hand man to Pharaoh and interprets dreams for him of 7 years of harvest, 7 years of famine. And then the brothers come back needing food, and forgiveness, redemption happens. And he essentially saves his brothers' lives.
He does.
Yeah.
And so we do see, like, as you're reading, and like you said, there's several chapters there.
Yes.
There's a lot that's unfolding
Yep.
in this story. But the favoritism and the jealousy, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
but we also see how God redeems it and how he brings it all together at the end, which is a really, really incredible story. And so I would encourage you as parents, like I always say, read it. Go back and read Genesis 37 through 50 so that you have a complete picture of what's happening. But Joel, we know, we see it in this story, how God is using the pain that Joseph is walking through. And we know that God uses our pain for his glory. So how do we see that happening?
Well, I think it's really really interesting when you even just see examples of, you obviously see the pain that he's going through, and when I was thinking about it, it brought me back to 2 Corinthians 12, 8 through 10, where Paul is talking about his persecution, and he prays to God about the 3 times of, will you please take this away from me, the thorn in my side, and God says, no, my strength is made in your weakness.
Yeah.
And so he then rejoices in his suffering. And so seeing how Joseph goes through that, and you see even evidence when Pharaoh or when Potiphar sees he's different. And ultimately our goal as Christians is to be different and to be lights. And you can see in this passage where Joseph is definitely, these passages is Joseph's obviously going through so much pain and so much turmoil that it ultimately it molds him, and God uses these many different things in his relationship with his brothers to mold him into a man that glorifies God.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really powerful imagery for us in our daily lives of the pain that we go through. Ultimately, our goal is to bring glory to God through that.
Yeah, and we see in the story that God uses it. I mean, he uses every trial. I mean, it's like again and again and again, he's getting hit by something else. Yeah. And God is using it to bring glory to himself. And so I think that's a really important thing. And just thinking through this story, I know that you as families, you walk through really hard things because we've all walked through really hard things. And I think it's really important for you to be able to connect together and ask this question: why does it matter that we trust God is in control and trust his plan, even if we don't understand what he's doing? And I can tell you the reason for that is because God, as our verse says in Romans, he's working all things for our good, for his glory. And as I was thinking through this story and just really trying to connect it, because again, I know we're all walking through hard things. I mean, pain is something that I've always been familiar with my entire life. And so I sometimes relate to Joseph. I relate to Job, who we'll actually talk about next week. But, I was thinking about, as a 5-year-old, losing my mom to cancer, and then just 5 years ago during COVID, lost my dad to COVID, and really like the trial of that and how much pain that brought into my life. But how at the same time, I saw God redeeming that, and I saw him using it for his glory, because people actually came to Christ at both of those times. And so you think about like how God redeems the hard, and he does that in this story of Joseph, but he didn't stop doing it in the Old Testament. He continued to do it in the New Testament, and he's still doing that now. He's still using our pain for his glory. And so we give him praise for that. But as a family, it's really important not to just pretend pain doesn't happen or brush it off, but to be able to say, hey, like this is a hard thing we're walking through. Let's wrestle through how we can still trust that God is in control and trust his plan. And again, it goes back to the reality that God has it all in his purview, right? He sees it all. He knows how all the pieces fit together. But Caleb, how does this story specifically point us to Jesus?
Yeah, there's actually like a lot of similarities between Joseph's life and Jesus's life.
Yeah, there really
like
is.
Sold for silver, betrayed by people he was close to. He had a father's love. And then he's forgiving the people who wronged him. And we see a reflection of Jesus within Joseph. And it's really cool to see how the pain that Joseph went through, the pain that Jesus goes through, ends up saving people's lives.
Yeah.
Jesus went through obviously so much pain to save us from our death. And so I think there's a huge point to Christ in this.
Yeah. I love that we know all of Scripture, it just points to Jesus. In fact, we can see what's considered to be a messianic hope in all of the Old Testament, because it's just pointing to the fact that the Messiah is coming, And then in the New Testament, we see all of it come to reality.
Mm-hmm.
And as believers, we have this really unique opportunity to be able to see it all come together in the Bible, at least, in this year of 2025.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to see it all happen, which is really cool.
I think this is also, the story is a good reminder that for kids and students, it's so easy to believe, like, once I become a follower of Jesus, my life is going to be easy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
My life is going to be easy. God's on my side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to go through struggles. But like Joseph was clearly walking with God, and we've seen with Abraham and Noah and all these people that the trials are still coming up.
Yeah.
And so it's a good reminder that even though you are a Christian, you are going to face trials and tribulations.
Yeah. In fact, the Bible promises that, doesn't it?
Right.
So we will. But it's a great reminder because God always has our good in mind.
Yep.
And so just like our verse says.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up this conversation about Joseph, I really want to make sure we highlight a few things that are happening or that have happened at Fairhaven. And so if you guys wouldn't mind,
I would mind.
You would mind.
I wouldn't mind.
Or you wouldn't mind.
Either or.
Updating us about what we saw happen, how we saw God working at the weekend a couple weekends ago.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Great.
I really thought it was like super impactful seeing, obviously, like for us, a record number of students coming to the weekend, committing, like giving up their weekend even just to be at the weekend, have a lot of fun, but then learn a lot. And I thought it was really cool. Ken, who spoke, gave some really awesome messages that I think really challenged the students.
Yeah.
He was very funny and he was very cool, but he also really challenged them, and it really challenged me. And as just like leaders, I think it was awesome to see like how their lives getting changed and going into small groups and seeing kids make commitments. And say like, this is an awesome experience here and now, but I'm not just going to let this stay here. I'm going to take this home. And I'm going to make a commitment to take this home.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool how Ken actually, in one of the sessions, talked about the Old versus New Testament and seeing the gospel throughout the whole thing. Because I was like, that's exactly what we've been talking about for the last months. Several months.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome.
Yeah. And to put a little more context to some of the decisions and amount of students that Joel's talking about, we had 221 students registered. We had 7 first-time decisions, 43 recommitments. So 50 decisions total were made. And then we had somewhere around 95 people, adults, give up their time to be a serve team member, to volunteer their time. And we always say we don't want to be a consumer church. We want to participate, and to see that many people give up a Friday and all day Saturday to be and pour into students it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It really was. It was super awesome to see. I didn't share this with either of you, but one of the most impactful moments for me was in the last worship set. A student, like everybody, for parents who don't know, when students get excited about worship, they like rush the stage and they are like all in and all engaged. And I watched this one student who was in the middle of all that pick up his Bible and come to the back of the room and sit alone in the service and worship God. He had his Bible just holding on to it and then raising his hands. And I just was like, wow, like the Lord is really working in the lives of students. And it's so incredible to see. And I was just really overtaken by the fact that he left like his friend group to go and worship alone with God because he needed that. And that was so powerful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So good. I know. So exciting. I can't wait for next year.
Yeah. We got some time though.
I know, but I'm excited. So it was awesome. Something else that we want to make sure you guys know about is a prayer initiative that we're participating in as a whole church. Easter is just a few weeks away.
Wow.
Crazy. I know. And Easter, if you don't realize, it's one of the best weekends for you to invite people to church, obviously because of why they're there, what they're hearing. But it's because at Easter and Christmas time, people are more likely to say yes to an invitation. So if you have people that you're thinking about inviting, don't think about it anymore. Go ahead and just do it. But at Fairhaven, one of our essentials is making God known, and we believe that everyone can and should be a part of doing just that. So over these next few weeks leading up to Easter, we're actually going to be specifically inviting, like I said, the whole church, but kids and students in their small group time to share names of people that they are praying for or inviting. And so during that time, we're actually going to take those names, we're going to write them down, and for weeks, we're going to be praying over those names specifically. And it's not just us, it's not just the small group leaders, the whole church will be praying. Our elders will be praying, our staff will be praying. And so we really are taking it seriously that we are called to make God known, and we're called to go out there and invite people to church. We want people to find hope in Jesus. And so together, we're going to be praying. I want you as families, though, talk about those people who you want to be praying for, who you want to be inviting. So that way when kids and students come on Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening, whatever it is, they already have some names and they're praying over people. But really excited about that.
I've already got my names ready to go.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we hope that you'll join us next week. We're going to continue this conversation about how God uses our pain for his glory as we actually take a look at the life of Job. So we'll see you next week.